गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम नारायण नारायण। We were discussing अध्यास मिथ्याज्ञानयोः ऐक्यात् उभयतापि यथोक्त एव अभिप्रायः। When it is told that avivekotham mithyajnanam is born of aviveka, lack of discrimination. If it born of lack of discrimination should not be taken as to mean there is a cause and effect relationship between them. So he told avivekotham mithyajnanam ityuktya viveka aviveka mithyajnanayoho upadana upadeya bhavaha. There is no material cause and material effect. It shouldn't be understood that way. This point has to be cleared as we discussed yesterday, because people tend to think that the world is something materially, substantially existing there. Materially, substantially it is existing. We take it as a substantial or material because we look at the world through our sense organs. We discussed elaborately yesterday that our standpoint was limited, narrow. Therefore, the conclusion about the world also will have to go wrong, because the mind and sense organs, which are already part of the world. So one part of the world is trying to understand the other part of the world. Okay. If the sense organs are looking at the world, so sense organs themselves are one part of the world and looking at the another part. So that how can the one part decide the real nature of the other part? Take for example, in dream, you are a dream person, living in dream, existing in dream. You ask the person who is in dream, is this world real or not? You ask him. Is this world real or not? You ask him. What does he have to say? He has no other option but to say world is. The world is really there, he has to say, and he will say, and he has no other option to say. Because the person himself is endowed with the body. And the body which he is identified with, because of this body he is what he is. And that body being a part of the world, so he is also part of the world. So he and the body existed, he and the world, he means the body and the world. He himself is a body which is a part of Panchabhutas. See, my body is made up of Panchabhutas. If I take myself to be the body, then definitely I form a part of the Panchabhutas. When I myself am a part of the Panchabhutas, and you ask the person, are there Panchabhutas? Are there 5 elements? What else he has to say? Of course they are. Of course they exist. Because what else he has to say? A dream person has to be part of the dream world. Without a dream world, a dream person doesn't exist, cannot exist. Therefore, you ask the dream person, is there a dream world? What else he has to say? It is like asking, are you existing? It is like asking a person, a worldly example I give you, the person who is awake. And you ask him, are you awake? And he says, when you are asking me, are you awake? The person was sleeping before. Now he got up. When he is awake, the another person is asking him to confirm whether he is awake or not. Are you awake? You ask a person. Now when you are asking this question, are you asking a woken up person or still sleeping person? You can't ask a sleeping person this question. That means you assume that he is awake and then you are asking a question. When you are assuming, when you know that he is awake, your question is waste. If he is sleeping, your question is waste because he won't answer. If he is awake, he is listening to your question, so he is already awake, your question goes waste because he is already awake. Therefore, if you ask a dream person, are you in the dream? It is like asking, is the dream world real? The question, is the dream world real, is like asking, are you in the dream world? Is the dream world real? This question implies, are you with the dream world? Are you a part of the dream world? When he is a part of the dream world, he is also the dream world. Now you are asking a part of the dream world, whether is the dream world there? Is the dream world there or not? You are asking a dreaming person who constitutes a part of the dream world. The dreaming person who constitutes a part of the dream world, you are asking such a person, is there a dream world? He says, of course, of which I am a part. How can you have any doubt about a thing, doubt about the dream world of which I am an essential part, inseparable part? The dream world of which I am an inseparable part. So, asking a question about the dream world is asking a question about you only. Asking the question about the dream world amounts to asking a question about the dreaming person. Is there a dream world? Means what? Are you part of the dream world? It is like asking that. Because he is the dream world is he because he is a part of the dream world. He cannot be separated. Once person is a part of the dream world, that means dream world is. Without the dream world, he himself doesn't exist. So, it is like asking a pramata, now you are coming to the waking state. It's like asking the waking pramata, is there a waking world? What else he has to answer? Does he have any option to answer differently? Does he have have you left any answer? Have you left any option? Or is there any option? Let us say this way. Is there any option for him to answer differently? Because you are asking, is there a waking world? That means, are you a part of the waking or not? He is of course the part of a waking. That's why you are asking a question. When he is a part of the waking world, then whether you ask a question about the waking world or whether you ask about him, it means the same. Okay? Whether you ask a question about the waking world or you ask a question about the waking person, both of them mean the same. Because both are one unit. Waking person is a part of the waking world. He doesn't exist. The waking person doesn't exist, did not exist when there was no waking world. In the absence of waking world, the waking person doesn't exist. Then waking person comes into existence when there is a waking world. Okay, along with the waking world, he comes into existence. So the he, the waking person and the waking world are in fact not two. They form the one unit, one block. Okay, one unit. Just as one pencil. I have not brought a pencil. Okay, let us take this. One pencil. You lift the one part of it, the other part automatically comes, because you can't pick only one part and leave out the other part. Or you take a paper, you lift one paper, one page of a paper sheet, one page of one parshva, patra parshva, one aspect of a sheet. When you lift, the other aspect also automatically comes, because they can't be separated. They are just one. You lift the one, the whole thing comes out. Similarly, you touch any one aspect of the waking world, the entire waking world comes. You can't take one part of the waking world and leave out the other part. Can you do that? Just as in the dream, you can't take one part of the dream world and leave out the other part, because the other and this all together different parts of the one whole. They all constitute various parts forming into one whole, constituting one whole. Therefore, the one part, that is my body, my sense organs, my mind, trying to find out whether the world is existing. What else you will say? It is like questioning, do I exist? Is my body existing? Is my body existing? What do you mean? If you ask such a question, what does the other fellow answer? Hey, supposing a person has come, you ask him, sir, I heard that you passed away, you are dead. Now I have a doubt, are you alive or dead, sir? Are you alive or dead? That fellow gets angry, say, what do you mean? What do you mean? You are asking me a question and have a doubt whether I am dead or alive? What does it mean? If I am dead, you won't ask me a question. The very question you are asking, you are seeing me and you are looking at me and talking to me, then no question is required. How can you ask a question? You ask a question somebody, sir, I have really a doubt, because people have been talking about you that you are not alive and you are dead. I have heard a lot of people telling me, so I have really a doubt. I say, that fellow says, they must have told. Many people must have told those who have not seen me. But thing is, you after seeing me and directly looking at me and talking me, still you continue to retain the doubt and then want to verify and ask me the question? And still you want to verify and ask me the question? Looking at me directly. What does it mean? And he says, no sir, I have a sincere doubt. I want to ask you, are you alive or not? Are you alive or not? You ask him. What does he say? Because he is a part of the very thing. He is the part of the very thing which you want to know. The same thing. That means the thing which you want to know is the same thing which is there right in front of you. Therefore, this very individual is trying to find out, is there a world? Is the world real? If the world were not existing, I would not exist. If the world is not real, I would not be real. I means pramata. Okay. If world was not real, I would not be real. If world were not existing, I would not exist. Therefore, now all the purpose of all this is we divide. This is the biggest problem of human being is, why human being, even non-Advaitins also did the same thing. It is the jiva who is trying to find out the nature of the world and say that world is like this, world is like this. I say, anything you decide about the world, anything you have an opinion, first who are you, where do you stand while looking at the world? Who are you? Where are you standing? How are you related to the world? And then talk. Tell me. Who are you first? Where are you? Where do you stand? How are you related to the world? As what person related to the world you are talking? First you look at that. If you are a human being, then you are already part of the world. Then you can't talk of the world, because anything you talk of the world is talking of yourself only. Yourself means I am talking as an individual, not as a Sakshi. When you are talking of the world, you are talking of yourself as a body. Then body is a part of the world. If you say, is there world real? Is the world real? This question amounts to asking, is your body real? Of course, body is real because body is part of the world. Similarly, people who are part of the world trying to find out what is the reality, what is the nature of the world. This very standpoint is creating a problem. This very standpoint creating problem means is not helping you to understand the real nature of the world. Therefore, the world has to be real. Because I am real. I exist. Do you deny your existence as a body, as an individual, as a mind and sense organs? Because you are the body, you are the sense organs, you are the mind. And this person who is himself body, mind and sense organs, he is trying to find out, looking at the world, what is world? Is the world real or not? People ask, sir, you say world is mithya. How can it be mithya? See the fellow, see how the people ask the question. You say world is mithya? You say world is mithya? How? In this question, in this enquiry, the very method of enquiry is wrong. Because one who is enquiring himself is wrong, is on a wrong footing. Therefore, he cannot find out the nature of the world. Therefore, people say world is there. Since the world is really there because I exist as a human being with a body, mind and sense organs. Okay. So the world really exists. When the world really exists and I look at the world through sense organs and I feel that it is solid, it is material, it is solid. Now once you are in this standpoint, you are in such a standpoint that you see the world as a solid, something real, something material. Then when you are trying to find out the cause of it, naturally your mind assumes that there must be a material as a cause of this world. Therefore you think that there is a material cause for the material world. If somebody says that no, world is not a material, world is not produced by something material, it is just created out of nothing, as the Bible says. World is created out of nothing, out of imagination. It looks so unscientific, how illogical, against your thinking. How can something come out of nothing? How can yatkinchit bhavarupam abhavat kathamutpadyate? Bhavam cannot come out of abhavam. Something positive, something existing can't come out of non-existence. Out of shunya. If it comes, you see, you look at the world, you create anything out of a matter, out of a material. Can you create a pen without a plastic or without some substance? Can you make a pot without mud or without steel or without some metal, some substance, plastic? These days you have got parts of plastic parts, metal parts, mud part, or many things, many materials. So some material is required. With that material, out of that material you shape something. If without material something is created, do you ever see? Do you ever see in life that if without material you can create, from the out of nothing you can create. If you are hungry, create a food and give you. Because if food can be created out of nothing, then I tell you, nobody needs unemployment, nobody works hard, nobody needs anything, nobody has any suffering, everybody lives comfortably. Your quarantine, your lockdown is very easy. Food you can create at home and eat. Go and sit on your dining table without any kitchen. First kitchen is closed down, there is no kitchen at all. Hereafter, the civil engineers, when they build the house, they don't build a kitchen at all. And there is no furniture at all. There is no vessels, only vessels will be there. There is no ration. Okay. Even vessels may not be required. You go and sit on the dining table. That's all. You just say like this and food comes and eat and go away. Why do you need a kitchen? Anybody enters the house, you don't find a kitchen at all. Do you find like that? That means you can't create something out of nothing. Out of blank, nothing can be created. Therefore, when you see the world, something as substantial, something as real, you end up imagining some material cause. You cannot but imagine something material must be there out of this is coming. Okay, this is the standpoint. So yesterday we discussed, you take the world as a whole, world as a substance which appears to be substance to your sense organs. See the same object, what it appears to one way through your sense organs, to the mind it appears differently. See, this is a stone. Why do you call it a stone? Because it is very hard. How do you know it is hard? Because you touch it. You feel with your sparshendriya. With your sense of touch, you feel something. With your eyes, you see it is a color. It has got a sound. You touch it, it has got a sound. You see, hit it, it makes a sound. Then it has got a taste also. Children know it. You put it in their mouth, you will get some taste. Or you put it close to your nose, you will feel some smell. So, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. These 5 qualities you feel when you are looking at it through your sense organs. So, you set aside the sense organs tentatively, look at it with your mind, what do you feel? You have a concept of a stone, isn't it? If you look at the same world through your mind, you have time and space. You have a concept of it. You have a time and space of it. Isn't it? When you look at the same thing from sense organs one way, mind is another way. You look at it through sense organs, it looks solid. When you look at through your mind, it looks as a concept, only a thought, huge thought. A solid thought, sometimes it may look solid thought, but it is a thought. It is a conception. It is an idea. See, emotions look very heavy for us. Sometimes there is a painful emotion. Sorrow. How does the sorrow look like? Look like very heavy. You are burdened with. Now, is an emotion heavy or light? Tell me. Is emotion light or heavy? Does emotion has any weight? Let us take it to the weighing machine and weigh and see. If a person who is emotional, highly disturbed, you ask him to sit in the, the weighing machine and measure. Is he heavier or lighter? Afterwards, when he is in a good mood, in a jolly mood, in a peaceful, cheerful mood, you put the same person to, ask the same person to board that weighing machine. Then is his weight less when he is light and jolly or cheerful? Other when he is disturbed and worried and under tension. Is he heavier? So, emotion doesn't have a weight. But still you feel differently. So, emotion you feel one way. Through mind you feel one way, through sense organs you feel another way. So therefore, depending upon how you look at, the world appears. Now we are looking at world means my body is a part of the world. My sense organs are the part of the world. Mind is part of the world. Then include your body, mind and sense organs also. If body, mind and sense organs are included in the world, where do you stand? Who are you watching the world? You have to be a Sakshi. Sakshi who is watching the entire waking state. Okay. When you are watching the entire waking state, you are not a part of the waking state because you are including the body, mind, sense organs and everything. Then when all this is included, who is watching the waking state? It is the consciousness, it is the Sakshi that is watching. Okay. Then the Sakshi, how is Sakshi related to the waking state? There is no distance of space. There is no time. There is no subject-object relationship. You are aware and thing is within me. See how the whole way of looking changes. When you look at the whole world as the waking state includes the waking world, time, space, your body, your sense organs, your mind, and you as an individual. Okay? This whole gamut, this whole waking state, when you look at it, then the waking state looks like a thought, isn't it? It is a thought in your consciousness. Not only the waking state, even the dream state is a thought. Even deep sleep state is a thought for that matter. Okay? Deep sleep can be looked from two ways. This we have to repeat it again and again because people tend to misunderstand. One is deep sleep as an experience. Second is deep sleep as a state which you think of when you are in waking. I repeat the last sentence. Deep sleep, when you think of the deep sleep as a state, you think of it as a state when you are in waking. When you are in waking, you think of deep sleep. Then the thought of deep sleep may look like either memory or a thought. People say it is a memory. But if you watch closely, it is not the memory of a waking state. See, three things let us say. Okay, let us divide three so it will be easy to understand. One is deep sleep as an experience. Second is deep sleep as a memory. You recall the deep sleep when you are in waking. Okay? You have a memory of deep sleep. But if you watch closely, it is not memory. Because to have a memory, the way same waking person must have experienced it in the past. See, think it. Waking person must have experienced the deep sleep in the past. Now the experience has come to an end and you retain the samskaras. The memory is a product of your samskara, your impressions. Okay? Memory means remembrance. You remember only the experience ends. Two things. Experience should end and the person who is recalling should be the same one who has experienced it sometime before. The experience should be an experience of past, should not be an experience of present, because present cannot be remembered. Why? When you can remember past, why can't we remember the present? That is the very nature of present experience. The nature of present experience is such that it doesn't become memory. That's why we call it experience. It's not memory. Memory means it is not an experience. It was a past experience. Experience is in the present. Memory is the past experience. Past means one or 2 points are there. One is it was an experience in before and now it has come to an end. First thing is the experience should end, then only it can become memory. Second point, the experiencer and the one who is recalling should be the same person. If experiencer was one and one who recalls is another, it is impossible to recall. I can't recall your experiences. You can't recall my experiences. Therefore, experiencer and the one who recalls must be the same. Okay. One point is experience should be over. Second point, one who recalls should be the same one who has experience. Third thing is there should be a time series. The time continuity should be there. The past experience should continue. I mean the past time flows into present. That means the past experience should be connected with the present as a time series. There should be one time connection. Isn't it? If otherwise dream time is different and waking time is different, you can't connect it. It should have happened in the waking experience alone can become the memory in the waking future. The waking past can be remembered in the waking present. Therefore, there should be the time sequence or kala pravaha. Time series should be one. Then the fourth factor is mind should be there. The mind should be the same mind. The mind which has experienced has gathered that experience. No, after the experience ends, it retains the impression of the experience. And when you need it at some time later, as you are reminded of it, you touch that experiences, those memories, or let us say those samskaras get triggered, and you happen to remember the past. So past is required. This person should be same. There should be the same time series, and also mind should be same. If these four factors are present, the real memory is possible. Otherwise, what looks like a memory is not memory. Okay. Now the memory has to be removed. The word memory is a wrong usage, because the remembrance of deep sleep, the so-called remembrance, now I have to change the word. You can't say remembrance, you can't say memory, you have to say the so-called memory, so-called remembrance. The so-called remembrance, so-called memory of deep sleep is not really a memory. It looks like memory, but if you just watch deeply into it, it doesn't have all the qualities and conditions of memory. It doesn't have the qualities of memory, the nature of memory. The factors are also, the conditions are also not suited for it to be a memory, to be called as memory. For it to be called as memory, the conditions are also not conducive, not facilitating. Yet you have, then we can say, you have some thought about it. Let us say, you have some thought about deep sleep. You have a thought about deep sleep. Two things are there. You have regarding that thought about deep sleep, you have a thought about deep sleep. The very nature of the deep sleep and how you connect it to waking person. These are the two things. The very nature of deep sleep when you think in the waking, okay? Not the nature of deep sleep when you are in deep sleep. We are not talking of that. That we have already set it aside. The nature of deep sleep when you are looking as a waking person. As a waking person, when you think of a deep sleep, how does it occur to you? How does it appear to you? It looks black and blank. Okay, double B. It looks black and blank. It looks blank from the standpoint of mind. It looks black from the standpoint of eyes. Okay, from the standpoint of eyes, sense organs, it looks dark. From the standpoint of mind, it looks blank. Okay. There is one more thing about deep sleep. It looks as if a past, it has gone by. Okay. The deep sleep, the remembrance of deep sleep looks like it has gone by. Okay. This is the third point. First point is, second point let us say. First point, it looks as a blank and dark. From the waking standpoint, deep sleep looks like a blank and dark. Second point is, it looks as a past experience, because it is the waker who is looking at it, and waker lives in the waking time. The waker cannot think of anything without a reference to time, because waking person, the waking pramatru is always associated with time, because the waking person has to be in time. So anything he has to think as if related to waking alone. Therefore, since it is not a direct experience of the waker, note this, it was not, neither it is nor it was. Deep sleep was not a direct experience of the waker. Yet it looks that it is my experience. It looks like a memory, though I have not experienced as a waker. See the importance. See the point. The waker has not directly experienced the deep sleep, yet it relates to me as a waking person. So there is a little problem. Therefore, it looks like my experience, but I have not experienced. It looks like an experience pertaining to the waking person. But if you watch waker as a person has not experienced, therefore he converts it into a memory of the waker. See, he presents it as a past. Past means, but was there a past? Because waker did not exist in deep sleep, and the waking time also did not continue into deep sleep, because deep sleep has no time. The past, present and future experienced in waking belongs to waking state alone. The past of the waking belongs to waking state. The future of the waking belongs to waking state. The past of the waking state doesn't jump out of waking state. Okay, note this point. The past of the waking state doesn't jump out of waking state. The past experienced in waking state belongs to waking, remains within waking. It doesn't jump out of waking state. Okay. The future of waking state doesn't jump out of waking state, because the future of waking state belongs to waking state. Therefore, it falls within the waking state. So the future, past of the waking state fall within the waking state. Within the waking state, they don't go out of waking state. So the waking person, when he thinks of when he has a pratyaya, when he has a thought of a deep sleep, he doesn't know how to relate to it. What cannot be related to him, he pushes into past. He calls it as a memory. He calls it as a memory. But it is not really memory. Okay. It is not really memory, because the waking person has not experienced it in the past. The past, which is a part of a waking state. Okay. The waking person has not experienced the deep sleep as a part of his waking state, because he himself is in the part of, he himself is a part of waking state. So his past, the waker's past, falls within the waking state alone. If the waker's past has to come out of the waking state, the waker himself has to come out. Note this. If the waker's past has to go out of the waking state, then the waker himself has to go out of the waking state, which is impossible. A waker cannot go out of the waking state, because when he drops the waking state, he himself doesn't remain a waker. He remains a sakshi, but not a waking person. Therefore, as a waker, whatever he experiences, whatever he recalls, all that recalled one should belong to waking state alone. But deep sleep, he calls that I am remembering. I tell you, you may call as a memory, but it is not a memory. You may give a name. Sometimes you give a name, it doesn't have that quality. You may give a name, but it doesn't have that quality of the name. Okay. So, deep sleep, there is a thought about deep sleep, this much we accept. There is a thought about deep sleep, but that thought is a blank, this much we say. It is a blank and there is a thought. This much is from the waking state we can understand. But calling it memory goes wrong, because memory has to happen. Memory pertains to an experience of the waking state alone. The memory, you can recall something which was experienced within the waking state at some time in the past. At some time in the past, within the waking state, experienced by the waker. But deep sleep is not experienced by the waker. Second thing is, it did not exist at some times in the past of the waking state. At some times in the past of the waking state, it did not exist. In fact, it is totally outside the waking state. Outside means what? It is a state, Sushupti is something where waking is totally unrelated. Waking itself doesn't exist. How can you say it existed? It happened sometimes in the past of the waking state. Sometimes in the past of the waking state. How can you say? Because the very waking himself is dissolved in the deep sleep. Therefore, deep sleep cannot be put within the time of the waker, within the past of the waking state, because the past of the waking state belongs to the waking state and experienced by the waker alone. But the deep sleep itself is not part of the waking state, not experienced by the waker. It is totally unrelated to waking state. Yet, the waker thinks that I am recalling, I am remembering. Then, we don't mind using the word remembering or memory if you understand this memory is only a name. It doesn't have any nature, any quality of normal memory. So the normal memory doesn't apply at all. You may use therefore we say so-called memory, memory like memory, or better say it is a thought, unlike memory. Okay. It is a thought, unlike memory. Now, if there is a thought, now we come to this point. If that thought is not experienced directly by waking pramata, now what do you say? There is a thought directly with me. This is what we can say. There is a thought. It is not a thought experienced at some time by the waker, but it is there with the waker. Therefore, whenever there is a waker, there is always something like a chaya. Something like a chaya means what do you call neralu in Kannada? Nida. Something like a shadow. Something like a shadow. Whenever you are a waker, there is always a deep sleep thought. A thought of a deep sleep. A thought of a dream state. Therefore, whenever you are a waker, you have an experience of waking, or you have a thought of a waking. Either way, whether you say thought of a waking or experience of waking, whenever you have a thought of waking or experience of waking, along with it like a shadow, there is always a thought of dream, there is a thought of deep sleep. So this thought of dream and deep sleep are always associated with a waking. Therefore we say, Jiva's anubhava is that I am a person having three states. I am somebody, not person, let us say, I am somebody having three states. This whole thought, I am somebody having three states, is adhyasa. Okay. My purpose of all this discussion is, now I tell you in one sentence, waking, dream and deep sleep, all these three avasthas put together constitute one adhyasa. Adhyasa means waking, dream and deep sleep. The thought of waking, thought of dream and thought of deep sleep, all the three thoughts put together constitute one adhyasa. That's why I have to explain all these things. Adhyasa means I am somebody having three states. When I have a waking state, it is deep sleep also is there like a shadow by its side by side. When there is you put an object in the waking state in the light, immediately you find object and a shadow by its side. Shadow also you will find by its side. Similarly, you feel that there is a dream which doesn't form a part of the waking state. Dream also. just as a deep sleep was not experienced by the waking person. When it is not experienced by the waking person, yet there is a deep sleep thought, a thought of a deep sleep, what do you say? It is there, I can say, that's all. I have a thought about a deep sleep, that's all. It is not experienced by waker, but it is always there. Therefore, just as the very wakerhood is anadi, the thought of a deep sleep state also is anadi. Okay. A thought of a deep sleep, which is so-called memory, which looks like memory, which is in fact not a memory, which is always there when I am in a waking state. I always have a thought of a deep sleep. As long as I am in a waking state, there is a thought of deep sleep. Okay. So, just as waking state is anadi, a thought of a deep sleep also goes with it as anadi. Whenever you have a waking state, there is always a thought of deep sleep. A thought of a dream state also. Just as the deep sleep, there is a thought of a deep sleep which cannot be called as a memory of the waker because the waker has not experienced it and not possible to experience also. Similarly, waker has not experienced the dream state. Dream state is not a past experience of the waker. Dream state, I repeat this, dream state is not a past experience of the waker because waker did not exist at the time of dream. See, waker himself did not exist. Waking state did not exist. Neither the waking state, nor the waker, nor the waking time. Okay. Waking state, waking time and the waking person. These three together form the one block. This entire block of waking state constituting the waking world, waking time and the waking person. So this entire waking state did not exist while I was in dream state. I was there as a different, as a sakshi, but not as a waking person. Something more than the waking person. I am somebody who is more than the waking person. I transcend my waking personality. I give up my waking personality as somebody which is beyond, which is much more. That is a sakshi. As a pure consciousness, I was in waking state. Therefore, waking person was not the experiencer of a dream and recalling it. Okay. Waking person has not experienced the dream. Waking person as a waking person. Note it. Waking person has not experienced the dream as a waking person. Underline it. Because as a waking person, I cannot jump out of waking state. Okay. As a waking person, I can't jump out of waking state. As a waking person, I am a part of waking state. I am inseparable from waking state. If I cease to be a waking person, there is no waking state. If there is no waking state, I cease to be a waking person because we are one together, one block. Therefore, the waking person, if he thinks of some past, okay, if waking person recalls his past experiences, all those past experiences falling in the past relate to the waking person, waking state alone. So the past of the waking state falls within the waking state. I repeat it. The past of the waking state falls within the waking state related to the waking person. Therefore, the dream is outside the waking state. It has not occurred within the past of the waking state. I say again, dream is outside the waking state. It has not occurred within the past of the waking state. Therefore, not experienced by the waking person. Not experienced by the waking person. Therefore, it is independent of waking state. But what about that I remember my dream? I remember my dream. The same answer we give, which we have given regarding the thought of deep sleep. Just as the thought of a deep sleep is only a thought, not a memory of the waker. I repeat it. Just as a thought of a deep sleep is a simply thought, not a memory of the waker. Similarly, a thought of a dream is also a simply thought, accompanying thought, not experienced by the waker, but accompanying the waking state. It is outside the waking state, but accompanies the waking state. That means there is a waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. All these three are simple three thoughts, or one thought of, a triad thought. I don't know how to say that. One thought constituting three thoughts. So this is a natural anadi adhyasa. Okay, a natural anadi adhyasa. Waker has not experienced the deep sleep, because deep sleep falls outside the waking state. Similarly, dream state was not experienced by the waker. Since it doesn't fall within the waking state, it falls outside the waking state. Therefore, a thought of a dream also is just a thought. A thought of deep sleep also is just a thought. Therefore, we call them mithya pratyaya. A pratyaya, just a thought you have with you, like a shadow thought, always it is there. Anadi pratyaya. A thought of a dream, anadi pratyaya. A thought of a deep sleep, anadi pratyaya. If you take waking as a whole state, that is also anadi pratyaya. Now you have anadi pratyaya of waking, anadi pratyaya of dream, anadi pratyaya of deep sleep. Therefore, a thought of waking, dream and deep sleep, that I have a three-state experience, this one whole is adhyasa. That means all the three states are adhyasa. Now you got the point. All the three states, the thought, pratyaya. Pratyaya means the thought, the notion. The notion of all the three states put together as one adhyasa. Now coming to our topic. He told there is no material cause for the material world. First we think world as a material. But we, after this so long discussion, we have decided waking as a state. State means a thought. Dream as a state means a thought. Deep sleep as a state means a thought. State means what? A thought. A thought of a deep sleep, a thought of a dream, a thought of a waking state. These three thoughts are anadi, swabhavika, natural, instinctively. Everybody has a thought of three states. Okay. Every person has this thought of these three states, which is anadi and swabhavika. And this anadi swabhavika is adhyasa. Now the question, we generally take the world as a material substance, look for a cause of it. Two mistakes are there. One taking world as a material substance. Second, looking for a cause. Looking for a cause means you are looking in terms of a past. Here the past, the time is a part of the world. And taking the world as a material also because you yourself, the onlooker, is a part of the world. The person who is looking at the world, pramata, is a part of the world. And you are looking at the world as a cause of it, as a past of it. How do you look at the cause? When you are looking for cause, hunting for a cause, you go into the past. That means you are going within the time alone. That means within the waking state alone, you are trying to look for the past. Within the waking state alone. When you are looking for the cause of the material world within the waking state alone, because the past is only within waking state, then this is what the thinking happens. You take the world as a substance. Look for a cause of it within the time and place. So you are looking at the world within the waking state alone. This is not the whole world. Therefore, looking for a cause of the world and arriving at a cause as a material is wrong, because you are not looking at the world as a whole, as we have discussed yesterday and today. As a whole world you take the whole entire waking state, the entire waking state, the dream and deep sleep. These three thoughts put together is the one Swabhavika. To this Swabhavika Adhyasa, can you look for a cause? Looking for a cause means you are again looking within the waking state alone. Then the state as a whole, when you take waking as a state, then dream as a state and deep sleep as a state, when you have a three-state thought, how can you look for a cause to it? Because the cause and effect relationship itself exists within the waking state alone or within the dream. The very relation of cause and effect forms the part of the waking state. How can you look for a cause and arrive at a cause as something material? Okay. Therefore, he told, Aviveka Mithyajnanayo. Mithyajnana constitutes all the three states. Aviveka is not understanding yourself, not looking at the Sushupti from Sushupti standpoint. Okay. Not looking at Sushupti from the Sushupti standpoint is Viveka. Not looking is Aviveka. Okay. So that Aviveka is the cause of three states. Adhyasa means three states. A thought of three states. Swabhavika Adhyasa. So when it is a cause of three states, cause means nimitta. Aviveka is the nimitta. Now, when we say Aviveka is the nimitta for Adhyasa of three states. When Aviveka is the nimitta for the Adhyasa of three states, you shouldn't think that there is a material cause which produces or which modifies into material object. Because there is no thought of material. World as a whole, you take it as an avastha. The dream as a whole, you take it as an avastha. Then deep sleep, only a thought. When the two avasthas become thoughts, deep sleep is also thought. All three put together is one thought of three states. So this adhyasa, we say, is found when you are not discriminated. When you have no viveka, you find this adhyasa. It only means that in the condition of aviveka, there is adhyasa. It doesn't mean there is a material cause and material effect. The relationship of material cause and effect. Okay. When there is adhyasa, you find there is no understanding of Swarupam. When there is no understanding of Swarupam, in that condition you find this adhyasa. Therefore, aviveka is a nimittam for adhyasa, not the cause of adhyasa. Okay. This point, ಇದಕ್ಕಿಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾಯಿತು. ಅಬ್ಬಾ, each sentence, see how much Swamiji's manana. In one sentence, how much he implied. Sugama, its Adhyasa Bhashya is very brief. Sugama is so elaborate. People say, Abba, so elaborate it is. Commentary. But each sentence of Sugama itself requires this much of elaboration. Each sentence of Sugama, I have only spoke one, not even one sentence, half sentence alone. If today's whole class is half sentence of Sugama, even that half sentence implies so much. All this comes only in Manana. What else can you do? You do Manana, you will get everything here alone. I don't have to say, or you don't have to read the book. Everything you find in your Manana only. So anyway, the time is up, 12 o'clock. So we will see tomorrow, continue it. So Sureshwara also says, by the Rajju Sarpa example, how Aviveka is a condition in which Adhyasa is formed. Adhyasa means all the three states. We have to say three states now, I don't want to touch it. The Vyakhyanakaras, how they present it. Adhyasa. They take waking is Adhyasa, deep sleep state is a Karana. Deep sleep state is a cause and waking is Adhyasa. They put Adhyasa is limited to waking state alone. They put deep sleep state is outside Adhyasa. This is the confusion. Swamiji tried to correct it. Okay, all the three states is one adhyasa. This is Swamiji's prakriya. This is Shankara's prakriya. And the other prakriya, anyway, this we'll discuss. Why today? It goes on now. We'll discuss all this tomorrow. Okay, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tatsat.